Howdy doody, boys and girls. How you doing? Well, I'm going to make a little video that's not going to be very important here, and we're going to put it up on Spindle Legs channel. And we're over here at Drunken Dog Nuts. I just had my lunch, so I figured I'd get my afternoon coffee. I don't get coffee all the time at lunchtime, but I do once in a while. And something I very, very, very rarely do. Maybe twice a year. I'm not a donut lover. I used to like the Dunkin', what they call the Dunkin' donuts. It has it's a plain donut with a handle on it. You can dunk it. Those were very good. And I haven't had those in at least 10 years. So I got myself some camel balls. I call camel balls. You got your little white powdered. They call them donut holes, but I call them balls. Sometimes I'll order them. I'll go into Dunkin'. I'll say, give me 5 of those golf balls, sugar-coated golf balls. Now, being diabetic, I very rarely will eat this stuff, but I do indulge once in a while. So before we get started, I gotta get my coffee cover open. So I figured I'd put a video up on Spindle Legs. Now, there's been a little misunderstanding, and that's probably my fault, because with all this problem with the internet, the video's not playing, and we know now it's the problem with YouTube and the way that they're making changes and so forth, and it's screwing up some of the ISPs, or in other words, the internet service providers. And it's affecting some, but not others, because the videos are stored up in what they call the cloud, where YouTube stores the video. So you have no problem uploading the video. It's just that when you want to retrieve it to watch it, it's stored up there. And it has been working. And originally I was moving my videos over to the Spindle Legs channel, only because at that time I could watch videos more reliably from there in Internet Explorer version 9. But now that's not the case. But everything seemed to have cleared up yesterday later in the day. Today being Wednesday, yesterday, Tuesday morning, I still had problems. But later in the day, things seem to have straightened out on all browsers, including Firefox. I did have one video that would not play. I would recommend this if you ever get a video that don't play, and the internet service provider told me this. Also, Metrocast Tech Help told me that, put a report in. In other words, right-click on that dead video that don't play and send report. And if you do that, the more, that way they'll know what's going on. I have been doing that, but I haven't been doing that before this. The more people send these reports out, they may do something about it. Apparently, like I said, things seem to be working. So, here I am flapping my gums, and I haven't even started eating yet. So, because things are more or less back to normal at this time, and things could change again, I have put videos on old 64 Goat, and somebody had questioned why I thought you were going to have all your videos on the new channel. That was at the time when everything seemed to have been working better on the Spindle Legs channel. So, anyway, so to please everybody, and to also keep Spindle Legs channel a little more active than it is now, this particular video will be uploaded to Spindle Legs. So just remember, keep an eye on Spindle Legs channel through the link that is on the lower part of my banner, photo banner on Old 64 Goat. And you can go back and forth between that because I've got the link on the Spindle Legs to go back to Old 64 Goat. I removed that video where I was getting the errors, because once I get questions and I get the answers, whether it be a question or whatever, once I get the answers, I remove the video. So I don't keep anything up unless it's something that can be watched over and over again. But if it's a question video or a problem I'm having, once I get the answer, I remove that video. Makes sense, doesn't it? So, anyways, they give me five camel balls here. Not a very exciting video watching the ugly old goat fill his face. I want to also put a thank you out publicly here to my good friend Burton, Slack Jones 1, I believe his channel is. He put a video out and he gave me a plug for my video on the restaurant back in the 60s. Appreciate that. And he's very right. We do have with different people completely. Not all his videos I watch, but there are some subjects, and I'm sure the same way with him, that he's really not interested either. Because if everybody was the same on YouTube, it would be quite boring, wouldn't it? So I want to thank you, Bert, for plugging that video. I always wanted to reminisce about the good days, because basically there are very, very few good days these days. Things cost so damn much money nowadays. Even though you're making more money, the money don't last. Back when I worked in that restaurant, I was making $1.25 an hour. Back around 64, 65. I worked there, well, no, I didn't work there in 65, I'm sorry. 64 was last year. I started working there in 1962, and my last year was 1964. But the restaurant was closing, and other owners took over. And when other owners took over that place, it was a completely different place to work. The owners were from New York City. They bought the place, the business, and I'm not sure if they owned the building or not. But they bought the building from the three partners, Nick, Bill, and Joe. And the guy that bought it was Andy. His first name was Andy. I don't know his last name. And he was SOB to work for. He would bitch if I sit down and have a coffee or something. I visit when my buddy came in, old man Nate Carver. I have a video on him. We used to come in and talk tech. And that never was a problem with the Nick, Bill, and Joe when they had the place. But it became a problem when new owners took over, even though I did all my work. There was never a problem. Everything was all caught up. As I said, I was a dishwasher in there. And everything was caught up, and there was nothing left to do. And so I'd sit down and grab a coffee and sit down with him and talk. But another thing I used to do, too, in that restaurant, when the original owners were there, before the place was sold, is the cook showed me how to make corned beef hash. And we had the big block of corned beef. We used to cut it. I used to cut the potatoes up in little 1/4-inch squares, and the corned beef the same way. And the cook told me, the chef or cook, he was Charlie the cook. Charlie was back then you could smoke in the restaurants. Charlie was a good cook, but he was disgusting. Old Charlie the cook, I don't remember his last name. At the time, he was probably about 65. He'd always have a damn stinking, them stogies. I can't stand the smell of them. Hanging out of his mouth. I call him Charlie the cigar dropping ash cook. A-S-H. He showed me how to make corned beef hash. And I got to a point where the waitress says, "Hey, Bill, you going to make the corned beef hash? We love your corned beef hash." Well, I continued that practice. I got in there with Charlie, and Charlie says, "Go ahead and make the corned beef hash tonight." We couldn't make it every time, but like once a week we'd make the corned beef hash, Well, Charlie was still working there when the new owners took over. But then they hired another guy named Chico. And they got rid of Charlie. Charlie was good, but Charlie just said, "I had enough of this crap. I can't stand the new owners." So I tried to continue making the corned beef hash, and the Andy came in, the boss. Andy and Jimmy were the two new owners. And they said, "You're not going to be doing that. You're not going to work in the kitchen. You're a dishwasher, that's all you are. You're not going to work in the kitchen." So that was in late 1964. And so what I did is started looking for another job. And there was a vending company right across the street from the restaurant that I used to go in all the time, before, in the years past, and get the jukebox pull-out 45s. He used to go through them and he used to sell them for $1/4 a piece. So a lot of my records came from jukebox pulls. I had over 945 RPMs. Not all of them come from the jukebox place. But anyways, it was a vending company that did candy, cigarettes, their jukeboxes, pastry machines, and later on, in later years, they did coffee machines. So I was a route man, but at that time I was not a route man because I wasn't driving in 1964 right away. I think I started later, shortly after I got there. I started working for the vending company in late 64 because I had enough of this. I'm getting away from this. Just couldn't take it. I wanted to go on days. I said, "Well, I've been here for a long time," and they wouldn't put me on days. It was all right when the other owners were there. They were great people to work for, and I didn't mind working 10 at night to 7 in the morning. But when the new owners took over, I tried to get on to days, and but I couldn't do it. But they hired his son-in-law, can't remember his name, and he took over the daytime dishwashing job. And I said, "Well, Andy, that's just not fair. I've been here for 3 years, and he didn't want to hear it." So when that crap came up, I just got out of there, and then I worked my way into the vending company, got my license, and I've been there for 11 years as a route man, and also repairing candy machines and stuff because I was trained on that a little bit, and learning how to go to doing repairs on jukeboxes because I already knew how to rebuild the amplifiers and stuff, but the mechanisms and the units for running the records, the change, I guess you call them changes, and stuff. I didn't know too much about that, and I learned a little bit, but I was never good at that part of it. And it came to the amplifiers. On the older jukeboxes that they had, whatever, they didn't need too much service. Most of them needed just tubes. And one of the first jukeboxes I got was a pretty much of a wreck in 1965 when I was working for the vending company, and of course I had my license by then. I bought from them a Seaberg 100. which is something like the one on Happy Days. But it didn't. It was missing the grill. It had the glass and everything was there, but it did not have the side parts coming down where the lights are, and it was missing all that part, you know. So I had that in the front room of the apartment that we lived in. We lived on the ground floor at that time, and I redone the amp on that, and it had on those changers, your record turntable went back and forth, left and right, you know, and it stopped, and it picked out a 45. This was strictly 45, and it had them little energized fingers that operated with a solenoid, and the accumulator, which was a box down below, basically it's a rotary switch that would energize each one of these little things, and these little fingers come out, and that's where I want to call it changer, but it isn't a changer. There's a name for it, and I can't think of the damn thing. Well, it's a turntable would go back and forth, you know, and it would play. You have a needle on this side. I have a needle on both sides of the, as I recall, you had a needle on each side of the tone arm, and depends on what part of the side of the record they're playing on. They were playing. Well, some of those fingers weren't working. They moved, but they wouldn't work because the coil was burnt out or something. And I was learning how to work on those, but it was quite difficult. And I was supposed to be sent to jukebox school to learn that stuff, but they never did. So they used to have a guy that was an expert on repairing pinball machines. I worked on a few of those too, but I was not too good at it. And jukeboxes and stuff, and you'd call, guy's name was Gene. Real nice guy. He's a whiz. That guy could fix anything. So they'd call him in and fix it. So, you know, they were going to send me to Boston to jukebox school, but they never did. And I ended up staying there as a root man for 11 years for doing candy, not cigarettes. I was the candy man. Pastry in later years. Pastry and occasionally they'd send me out on fill a cigarette machine, but I was never too good at it. We had a guy named Steve who worked for us back in the 60s, worked with us as a root man. He did nothing but cigarette machines, and he could do 35 stops in one day. That guy could take a stack of cigarettes, and fill them up. Me, I'd be fumbling with the damn things and taking 2 or 3 at a time and fix them up. The old National machines and all those. He did nothing but cigarette machines, and nobody could be as fast as him. He was a whiz at filling cigarette machines. But back then, you had to deal with the smoke-filled bars and stuff, and I hated going in. I never drank, and I never smoked, and I hated going into those bars. You know, I've been flapping for a long time here. And I'll tell you, those were the good old days in some ways. But you know, the guys I worked for in the vending company, they were good people to work for also. You know, a lot of my projects that I built projects back then too, you know. I wasn't living where I am now, of course. I was living at home in that two-family house where my workshop was. We moved in there in 1966, and I immediately, that June of 1966, set up that workshop in the attic, which you've seen if you watched that video on my test equipment that I just put up there. That shop was set up in 1966, and I was at that time working for the vending company. And when I was on the route, if I needed to get something, like the plywood for that bench and stuff, it was all brought up there, and it was cut. It was a 4x8 sheet, and I had to have it cut in half and 4x4 so I can get it up the attic stairs. But all that wood was carried in my vending truck. It was a Ford Econoline vending truck at that time. It was a 1965. I think it was a 65 Econoline, and if I'm not mistaken, that's the one with the engine in the middle. You used to make good campers out of them things because the engine compartment was in the middle, but you had no protection in the front of you, you know. They were nice people. They let me, if I needed to stop at a store, lumber yard to pick up some wood. I didn't, you know, they didn't mind it. They knew I was doing it. I'd bring the wood, drop the wood home on my route, unload it, and then go continue on my route. Well, I'm going to end the video now. Somebody just pulled in next to me. I want to thank you for listening to my flapping ugly gums.